Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Neremik and welcome back to more of the Great Ace Attorney adventures. Last time we arrived in England and we started our very first trial, and it's not going too well. In fact, we are about to be hit with a guilty verdict. However, there's a way out, and that's to do I can't remember the actual name, so I'm just going to call it a closing argument. Yeah, we can do that, and we can try and get a few of the jury to change their verdicts from guilty to not guilty, at least for the time being, while we figure things out. And yeah, that's kind of where we left off. So, I'm going to assert our right. And I'm going to get straight into it. The defence wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord. Ah, that's what it's called. London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried.
Objection.
But if it's alright, it's alright. I believe we could prove that vital in this trial. The defence's position is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with the summation examination. This is madness. Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready? Well, I'm not, there was no mention of this in the letter I received, you see, so... All members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they've reached their decision. On what grounds? You must all justify your decisions and explain why you believe the defendant to be guilty. Well, my lord, you're rather putting us on the spot. And this is most irregular, no mention was this made before. I don't really hold this was just a fine lark. That seems to have thrown the jurors off. It seems none of them have experienced this before. Alright then, summation examination. A defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe. It might be the opportunity you've been looking for. Let's turn this trial around. So be it then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court hereby calls upon you to state the grounds on which you find the defendant, Magnus McGilded, guilty of this most serious crime. This is probably my favourite mechanic in the whole game. It's so baller. And the soundtrack that goes along with it. So the jurors' contentions. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him. I trust the driver, he has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totalling 20 pence. You saw the traffic then, just like this. Brazen, I gotta say, absolutely brazen. I simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far and have drawn the logical conclusion. You can trust the guild, fares is our motto, we haven't raised prices above 4 pence in years. The scoundrel stabbing that poor man on the floor, it beggars belief. We do not have a lot to work with here. Alright, I'm starting to wish I hadn't pushed for this now. Some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully formed arguments though, do they? Well, let's see what we can do. We need to get these 6 people to change their minds. I'll throw everything I can at them, and use some very persuasive language. Just a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. According to my book, that's not quite how it works. Oh? I thought I was going to have to thaw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about the defendant. Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says. But then, they've reached their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, it could recoil on you. The more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become. Then what on earth am I meant to do? Oh dear, I'm just citing what I've read about British law, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, I'm sorry, do you have any idea how to make this work then? Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your arguments. What do you mean? Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. They may appear to present a united front, but the truth is, they are complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here in the courtroom. And that's the way to break them down, you mean? Yes, exactly. We must listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says, and see if we can identify any contradictory statements. If we can, then we can contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other. I see, so it's contradictions in what 2 or more jurors say that we're looking for. In a way, then, this is similar to a regular cross-examination. Oh, yes, I suppose you're right. Find the contradictions in the statements and pit the jurors against one another. Alright, I might be able to pull this off. No, that's not right. I have to pull this off. Can we stop proceedings, Counsel? I would ask that you take a stand for this. I'm expecting a clear and concise rebuttal. Yes, my lord. So we're moving from one stand to the next. Getting awfully suave, if I say so myself. Alright, the defense's rebuttal. So, we've got 6 statements. We can press them, but we can't present anything against each other. So, no one else inside the carriage at the time, it has to have been him. We want to find something that looks fishy or ambiguous, really, to press. So, stuck the chap right next to him like this, and brace, I must say, absolutely brace. Hang on a second. So, you're typing, you're trusting the guild. Now, if you look at the motion she made, it's very different to what juror number 3 made. So, we're going to do that, and we're going to do... No, how do we... Okay, we pit him against her.
Objection.
There we go. So, those 2 statements are completely contradictory. What? Explain, Counsel, post-haste. Oh, dearie me, I was only missing a jumper for my other half. What's all this claptrap? Does contradictory even mean, I ask you? We've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3. What, couldn't you say I'm busy, eh? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Ah, want to test me, do you? It was like this. Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. It was just like the prime ranker said. Yes, that was Mr. Fairplay's testimony. Quite true. Now then, juror number 6. Oh, is that me, is it? What can I do you for, young man? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madame? Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand it... It was like this! He stabbed the poor man after he had collapsed on the floor. The coachman said so. Now don't move. Take a look at these 2 jurors. He stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. And he stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. Well, I never. They're stabbing in totally different directions. What? Bless my stitches. Oh, muddle. What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. Oh. But why? Why the dickens would they lie? Well, I don't know that yet, but what I do know is if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen in all good conscience? Lies, you say? Oh, dearie me. I can't abide by people telling lies. It's been a while since we've heard the objection music. The scales. I don't believe it. Wait! Now wait this, me fellow jurors, I warn you, I can't listen to this man. Look at him in his black suit, he's clearly some and sorcery using all magic on us all. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all of this? Answer me this, Dark Jinx. Oh, me? What exactly is the problem? Which of it 2 witnesses have slightly different recollections of events? What of it? Let's say the Charlotte did stab the victim as he was sat next to him on the omnibus, then this young dandy saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed onto the floor and then his Sherlock stabbed him again. This old lady saw him do it. Well, what's to say it didn't happen like that then, Are you calling a dandy, sir? Why, I should take this knife to you. Who are you calling old? Why, I should take this needle to you. Oh, they're ready to kill each other now. But could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the 2 witnesses see 2 different moments of the same crime? It sounded the question because he was only stabbed once. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman. Oh, what is it, you Dark Jinx? Come on, out with it! What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question. Oh. What are you talking about, man? How can you possibly say that? You do realise that I'm only doing my job. As gentleman of the 4, you have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. So where's your evidence, man? That's what we want to see. I say these 2 witnesses saw different moments of the crime. If you say that's out of the question, show me some proof. It looks like the only way I'm going to convince him is presenting something concrete. Something irrefutable. As you wish. What? I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that the 2 witnesses saw 2 different moments of the same crime, as proven by autopsy report, a single stab wound to the abdomen.
Take that!
This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen grand total of 1 time. Only once? It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely 1 time. Which means these witnesses can't possibly have seen it happen 2 different times. Alright, I concede defeat. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo, you've done it. If we can manage to change 2 more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. 2 more. Actually, there is something else that's bothering me about a couple of their assertions. Then that's where you must strike next. So I need to pit 2 more jurors against each other and show there's another contradiction in their assertions. Exactly. You can do it. Well, the scales of justice have shifted, but they still weigh heavy on the side of guilt. Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination. So not doing half bad here. Right, I'm the love of the rich, but I despise lies even more. Alright, okay, I simply typed down... I want to see what you've typed down, that's too vague. What have you been doing all this time? What have you been doing all this time? There. I should have thought it was obvious. I'm recording everything that takes place as part of these proceedings. And what have you learnt from that? For example, at this moment in time, the judge has used the scaffold 11 times in total. The prosecution has snorted individually your remarks 7 times in total, and I, might add, each time you have gulped like a simpleton. Thank you. What's the point of being alive exactly? So anyway, madame, are you able to explain why you think the defendant is guilty? That is a conclusion I've drawn as a result of the copious notes I've typed. Clearly, but I'm asking you to explain why you've drawn that conclusion. Please don't distract me. It makes it extremely hard to concentrate on my note-keeping. This is going nowhere. Okay, so she's a lost cause, then. Right, you can trust the Guild Fair Fares on after we raise prices by 4 pence and 4. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Alright, not you. Not you. Not you. No. No, not you. You. Right, I trust the driver here has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence? I know simple mathematics, and I know that math is wrong.
Objection.
These 2 statements clearly contradict each other. You explain yourself, counsel. Me? Oh dear, what have I said? That's one Silverblaze's name and main. I haven't the first idea what you're talking about. According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus in the night in question. And according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20 pence in fares. Quite right, I have those precise details tabbed neatly in here in front of me. And juror number 5 also tells the following. The fare for the omnibus is always 4 pence. That it is a fair and convenient single price, just the way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts. Why, man, why? Well, 4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication... Ah! It would be 16 pence. Exactly. As I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different. By 4 pence, in fact. Or precisely 1 person's fare. 1 person's fare? Yes. In other words, the omnibus on that night. It's distinctly possible. There was another passenger we've heard nothing about. Good gracious. This can't be right. Coachmen of the Guild are good, honest men, one and all. Truthworthiness is our watchword. The figure your coachman claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is a fallacy. I beg your pardon. Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news will surely spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact he lets nefarious characters ride his omnibus. Alright then, how do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end them? Well, according to my book here, you simply want to ball fire onto the innocent side of the set of scales. Now what the horse is there, coachman? We were all in agreement. Oh, what do you have to go and... Wait till I get my hands on you, Beppo! Oh, this is all very irritating. Begging your pardon, sir, I'm going to do the same. Got 2 more people left to convince. Not going to be that easy, obviously, because it's still the very start of the case, but still. Right. For the love of Mike, not you as well! A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear, after all. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters. Oh, really? I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. Wait, that means... For jurors now, we need to not guilty. We've done it, Mr. Naruto. We've won. Oh my god. That was so baller. What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. But we've had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know all when I see one. And if the chap dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair off his head. Please tell me he's a barber. Well, in a quite remarkable turn of events, the defense's summation examination has flipped the balance of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to adjudicate, and the trial must continue. I love that mechanic, it's so good when you slowly turn them around, it's magnifique. So, I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and witnesses to return to their places, and I call upon all of you to continue to pursue the truth. Yeah, so it's very... I like this judge, he's nice. I can vibe with him. So, Lord of Antiques, continue to substantiate the case of the prosecution, if you please. Or just get drunk. It's just... What are you doing? You gonna drink it? What a waste of wine! Having savoured the rich aroma of this carmine contents of this hollowed chalice. It may seem crass to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks. Is it cold in here, or is it just me? As your antiquated toman no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination, so I honour the deathly silence, and listen to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Ugh. Eh? Well, no matter. There is nothing so hard to prove as itself as in the truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle. Oh, he means business now. Bring forth the witnesses once more. Witnesses, I trust you heard the summation examination we've just had to endure. Oh, yes, sir, that I did, sir. Of course I heard it. Oh, yes, sir, I heard it. You, sir, on the end. The coachman. I believe it's Beppo? Yes, sir, my lord, sir. If it transposes in your previous testimony, you were attempting to veil the presence of a 5th passenger on your omnibus. You will be found guilty of perjury. You are advised to bear this in mind, sir. Now then, witnesses, I hereby call you to testify before the court again. You will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination. There's so many tongue twisters in these lines, man. We're powering through, We'll call it about halfway mark. So, but I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it. Well, everyone was told I had to pay £5 for the bus. He filled us on the fare, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. Yes, he stabbed me, did I think so, yes. Counsel, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom 5th passenger conjured into existence by my distant friend never existed. The confusion is driven from the coachman's sly whistle cousinage. Beppo, explain yourself. I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. The girl's fare is £4 across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny affair? It's so cold, and the bus that he's always half empty. You've been dishonest, coachman. I'm sorry. You're a disgrace, Beppo, a disgrace. And your self-actions have brought dishonor upon the entire guild. If I may, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What? 4 passengers at 5 pence each is, yeah, 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently. Know that. Figures. Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please. You've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely. Okay, so we're like up a very deep creek right now. So I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it, but he's stuttering, so he's got more to it. So there were only 4 passengers on your carriage, but you didn't charge them the standard 4 pence fare? Is that right? It's impossible to make the last run of the day pay. I was so cold all I could do was stop myself from passing out. I'm getting chilblains just listening to you. It was terrible, so I wanted to give myself a pat on the back for even keeping the bus running. Doesn't that a dedicated coachman deserve an extra penny passenger? You're digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a 5th passenger on the omnibus that night, then we would have another suspect. Well, I've almost thought they had to pay 5 pence for the bus. I'm just gonna press them all. Let's play it safe. Does that mean everyone on board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4? But well, I paid 5 pence too, sir. And I just told you why I did. A flat fare of 5 pence across the board. It's not something to be proud of. The so-called discrepancy on my way in friend with nothing of the sort. Much like the phantom killer you so desperately needed, it's gone, dead, and buried. I'd have been happy if it ever existed in the first place. He fiddled it on the ferry, didn't I? I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. Okay, bring it. This blood-curdling sight, you mean the murder, I presume? Yes, sir. A loathsome sight. No one should have to witness the horror in the eyes of a man in the moment of his life is taken. Oh, well, not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moment the gent was stabbed. Good gracious! Really? We have another witness who did, however, the banker has already testified to it. But Mr. First didn't actually see the point at which the victim was killed. That may turn out to be very significant. But the banker gent that makes me take a sharp intake of breath, see? That's when I looked through the glass. That's when I saw that horrible blade poking out from his belly, all covered in blood. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming. Even when I'm eating. I tell you, I saw McGilda stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. So you saw the defendant, Mr. McGilda, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason, who was sitting next to him. That's what I said, innit? It was bothering me before, this was. For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering the question. Anyway, there was only 2 of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of a 5th passenger, but as yet, 0 evidence. Then what are we wasting all this time for, eh? It's black and white, the man's guilty. Something about Mr. Fairplay's testimony just jars with me. I wish I could work out what it was. Okay, so that's immediately something we'll look at presenting after pressing Beppo. Right, he stabbed them, yes he did, I think, so yeah. As we came to the conclusion last time, I don't think he saw the moment, he just saw the body. So, earlier you testified you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Oh, yes, that's right. You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice pick grip. I suppose. I might have, you know, yes. Put the cart before the horse, maybe. What's this? Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. So I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats of the roof deck. Oh, I expected that was me, sir. But then when I turned around, yes, I saw it through the skylight. A gentleman was on the floor, and knife was taking a bit of midriff. That's right, and the fellow holding the handle was a famous man, yes. So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all? I really thought that I did, but when I go over it again in my head. No, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I?
Truth!
Oh.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? No, you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. He didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Eh? You asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? No chance. Well, it's a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through skylights on top of an omnibus, that is. Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember it clear as bell that day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. No, excuse me if I was getting a little horse on the call there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that, alright. I'll tell you just how grim it was. There we go. Alright, do you think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after that butcher stabbed the man? Blood-soaked hands, you say? Blood-soaked hands?
Objection.
Blood-soaked hands? Well, I admit the soaks might be laying us on a little thick, but... But anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's a little more than peculiar. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. No, yes, right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark coloured stain there. But, as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. Yeah, but no, that can't be right. So you're the liar here, then? That's right, you were clever about it. You said, it was both hands. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth?
Objection.
If it was a simple mistake, you can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands, but only one. The fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection.
No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands, which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Why? I'm a city banker, for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate. He's claiming to have no reason to lie, but is that really the case? Mr. Naruto, if we had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying, it could turn the tide in this trial completely. Something to show this man has a compelling reason to lie in his testimony. I have like a hunch, because I've played this case before. Debtor's ledger. I want to have a look. Right, this portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry. Oh dear, do you really think we also look inside? Well, it's not as though we know any of London's gentry personally, is it? Apart from our great selected friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder. I assure you we will not find Mr. Sholmes' names inside. Well, let's see what we find. Okay, so we're going to open this up, and I have a feeling I'm going to find a very specific name in here. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, almost everyone in this country is well off. Ah, goodness! What is it? Look at this, do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar. Actually, Bruce Fairplay, the witness testifying at this very moment. Oh yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could be very useful information. Details of the debtors' ledger have been updated. Oh, well, a little bit of a hunch, but oh boy, does it come in handy. So I have evidence. My lord. Yes, counsel. The defense is ready to present some evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, the evidence will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had the reason to lie in his testimony. Ah! Very well. I hereby call on the defense to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court. And of course we already know it's the debtor's ledger.
Take that!
This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused extortion. And the point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. What? Mr. Fairplay, you've currently indebted financially to the accused. Oh, well, it's, belly with being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Well, what of it? What suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder? What would become of your debt in that case? These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, be sentenced to a capital punishment. All outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist. Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw, in a devious attempt to annul your debts of 20 guineas to the defendant? It's 11 AM, I can't get away with shouting. Order! Order! Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes, my lord. Let me ask you again. And be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time in which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim? Your silence speaks volumes. You didn't tell the truth in your testimony. Alright, let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth pinch. Oh, okay, oops. A pinch. But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on Mr. McGilded's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And yet only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained. So you keep saying. I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir. Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the first thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself as it happened. Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure it was on both of his hands, not just one. What? What?! It would appear we're going to need further testimony from all of you witnesses. This time I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yes. Mr. Narado, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last. Yes. I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. Okay, final witness testimony. I'm going to wrap this one up. There was blood on both of the hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment of the stabbing transpiring, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them. But I didn't actually see anything myself, no, until I heard that scream. Anyway, the fact remains, there can't have been anyone else inside that carriage we all would have seen. I have a feeling that last statement is probably something we can present on. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, it turns out my food arrived like half an hour earlier than I was expecting, but shh, we can get through this. So, right, I apologise, my lord, but honestly, there was no one else inside that carriage, and the man's hands were covered in blood. That much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it. That's really not what testimony is about. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witness's accounts. In other words, there is no substantial nor significant change in the fact of the case. Very well. Your cross-examination, please. Okay, here we go. This will be my last little bit for the episode, because I need to start exporting this soonish. So, immediately that last statement was sticking out to me as fishy. It's been like 10 minutes though, so... Could be wrong, but I swear, like, statement 5 is the one that was like... yeah, he didn't see the exact moment. Okay, I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of these attacks. Just, see, all this is, like, consistent now. All of it's leaning in our favour, we just need to make it lean more in our favour. So anyway, the fact remains there can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we all would have seen. I'm gonna press that. And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight on the roof of the omnibus? That's right, it was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over. Oh yes, I remember I was shivering, it was so bitter. Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the roof deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh, why not? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. It was locked. That's right, and it's public bus service for pity's sake, that's not what I call fair play. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gents inside just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up to the roof deck and lock down longingly into the warm cabin below. And I can well assure you I wasn't just looking down, I was glaring long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed. Interesting. Alright, unequivocal I would say. I'm not sure about these two witnesses. Could they really have seen everything inside of the cabin through the skylight? They might not have been able to, because of perspective. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You were riding this omnibus and witnessed the events in the cabin through the skylight in the floor of the upper deck. Is that right? That's right, yes. In that case, there was a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. What? By golly, really? Obviously at this stage we can't say for sure, but the possibility can't be denied that at the time of the incident there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus.
Objection!
Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponese friend. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claim. After all, the scene of the crime is here in the flesh. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. You will identify the area on this cross-sectional plan of the omnibus. It's here, isn't it? Right, where exactly in the omnibus are you suggesting that's potential extra passenger? Because if they're sat there, then their point of view would have been there, not here. Like this is out of sight. Both rows of the seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other. Which means the visible part of the cabin, which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight, is as I've drawn here. Ah! That's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite the one on the victim and the attacker were sitting is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible that these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it. Not doing half bad.
Objection!
It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put in names this mysterious passenger whom you allude. Can you, Mr. Naruto? I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat which was out of sight from the witness on the roof deck? I have an inkling. I understand, my lord. The defense would like to put forward a name. You are a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learned. What does not delay, counsel? The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. This could be it. This could be the chance I've been waiting for to turn the trial in my favour. On that night, on the night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from view was the defendant. passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witnesses on the roof deck failed to see has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded. Mr. McGilded? What are you talking about, Counsel? That's the name of the defendant!
Objection!
If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hallowed chalice, do forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks. People talk of those tiny island nations in the Far East having land and culture of their own, but I see they use terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attested to that fact. It's on the very premise of which this case was built.
Objection!
But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. What inconsistency, Counsel? The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claim that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim.
Objection!
Yet we know the truth to be otherwise, only one glove bears the gory remains.
Objection!
The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yes, their testimony remains unchanged. Exactly, they both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailants. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim on that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on that passenger's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And who was this third party? Obviously, the true culprits. Extraordinary! Order! Order! What exactly are you postulating?
Objection!
The defense's postulation is just that, nothing more than conjecture. The witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused.
Objection!
But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't see exactly what their faces were like. Yes. The tops of their heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them, though. Yes, that's right, both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir. And what particular style of hat did the two gentlemen spot, Mr. First? Please say you don't remember. I'm afraid I don't remember. And you call yourself a hatter? The style of hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin. How can you be so sure? Because if there had been, the accused Mr. McGilded would undoubtedly have offered to dispose of the fact. Unless, that is, you're proposing an even more preposterous explanation. That the accused failed even to notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he travelled. Ah! He's right. If there was another person travelling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus, it's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded would have been unaware of it. Order! There is clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused Mr. McGilded to the stand. Well, what say you, Counsel? The prosecution objects, my lord. On what grounds? As a suspect, you will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. It has indeed turned out the man has been withholding information. You can be sure it will have been a most deliberate act. Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord, should we ask Mr. McGilded to testify or not? Well, that's something you're going to have to find out next time. Yeah, running a bit short on time, so I'm going to wrap this one up here, but hopefully you enjoyed. I really enjoyed. I know the voices were much more on par this episode than they were the last one, and I'm really happy that we've got everything ironed out. We have been just banging it out. We haven't even had to stop to wait for most of our, reason to click. But I'm very happy with this episode. Hopefully you are too, and if you did enjoy, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It will help us out a bunch. But until next time, all set all that aside, I really do hope you've enjoyed, because I most certainly have. And thanks for watching, guys. My name's been Neremik, and peace out.